I'm gonna rub your belly.
So, I rewatched one of my all-time favorite animated movies. I'm talking about none other than My Neighbor Totoro. It is, of course, the anime feature written and directed by the legendary Hayao Miyazaki and produced by Studio Ghibli. Ghibli? I can never remember.
ジブリ
It's easily their most well-known movie, and the title character has become the studio's mascot. Japan's Mickey Mouse, if you will. It's regarded as a masterpiece, and rightfully so. My Neighbor Totoro is a work of art in every respect. So what's the story here? Actually, and this is something you almost never see done well, but there isn't much of a story here at all. A father and his two girls, Satsuke and Mei, move to the country to be near the girl's mother, who's in the hospital for spinal tuberculosis. During their stay, the two sisters have a series of adventures with the strange and wondrous creatures called Totoro. And I don't think anyone would disagree with me that the plot is very minimal here. I don't think a deep and profound plotline is very important so long as the story is well told. It's at least partially autobiographical. Like Satsuke and Mei, when Hayao Miyazaki and his siblings were children, his mother suffered from spinal tuberculosis for several years and spent much of her time hospitalized too. And I hate to mention the likes of Family Guy in a review about such a highly regarded masterpiece of cinema, but the episode simply titled Brian and Stewie is easily one of the best episodes, in part because it dared to break away from the established norm of the series, and for adult cartoons in general, to tell a unique story. The plot is literally just Brian and Stewie getting stuck in a bank vault overnight, in a single location, and there's no B-plot or C-plot, or even any cutaway gags. But the episode stands out, to me at least, because it's so well told. They're really the only two characters I like in that show, to be honest. But getting back to the movie of the hour, that's one of the reasons I love this anime so much. It's not following your typical story structure of setup, confrontation, resolution. There's no hero or damsel who needs to be rescued. There's no bad guy or much of a conflict in general, really. But it still, somehow, manages to be one of the most memorable and paramount animated movies of all time. It bravely goes against your expectations. You won't really learn anything watching My Neighbor Totoro. There's no profound moral or message that I can discern, but it still manages to inspire and captivate me every time I see it. It's pure, unfiltered fantasy excellence, really. And that's what animation is supposed to be in the first place, an escape from reality. Look at old Disney and MGM shorts from the 20s and 30s. Their purpose is solely to entertain and show you things that could never happen in the real world. It doesn't have to preach a message to its audience or make you learn something. It's just there to entertain. And not to sound like a generic film critic, but the art is breathtaking in this movie. The movie as a whole is amazingly creative and unique, and that's why it's held in such high regard, I think. Because it dared to be different. The extraordinarily handcrafted traditional animation the studio is known for is fluid and lively here. I mean, that's what animation means, after all, to give life to something. It's not as fluid as, say, a Disney movie. But I think the art easily surpasses anything done by Disney. With anime, there typically aren't as many frames of animation, and lip-syncing? What's lip-syncing? Anime characters look like sock puppets.
I've made a wonderful friend with this sock I found. And then I had another sock, so I made another friend. Hello. Hello. How did you get to be so small?
That's okay, because it works for that style. And also I want to touch on the backgrounds. I mean, how often do you hear a critic praise a film's backgrounds, of all things? The backgrounds were easily some of the best I've seen in anything. They're great. Like, I want to put some of these works of art on my wall. Let's talk about the characters briefly. The characters of Mei and Satsuke were incredibly cute, but remarkably convincing children. They're portrayed very realistically. Sometimes they're loud and exuberant, but they're never not charming. I also want to mention that Totoro is a species, and not necessarily the name of an actual character. But come on, we look at this guy and say, yeah, it's Totoro. What are you talking about? Why are you in my bathroom? Kinda like how we call the shark from Jaws, Jaws, even though no one in the movie ever called him that. or how we call Frankenstein's monster Frankenstein. And make no mistake, Totoro is an animal. Miyazaki himself says that Totoro is, quote, not a spirit. He's only an animal. I believe he lives on acorns. He's supposedly the forest keeper, but that's only a half-baked idea, a rough approximation. Well, he didn't say it in English, but you get the point. You know what, let's hit up ye old Google Translate so they can butcher his quote.
チンチンチョンチンチェンジャッキーちゃんスイート&サワーソース
And as a musician myself, the music from My Neighbor Totoro is one of my biggest influences, really. It has one of my all-time favorite soundtracks of any movie. I listen to it all the time. And I feel it necessary to mention that I actually prefer the English dub to this movie. I know there's a lot of anime purists out there who would feed me to cat bus for saying that, but I try to find the dub whenever I can when I watch anime. And don't get me wrong, I've seen some bad dubs in my day, but this is not one. Frank Welker does the voice of Totoro, and he's fantastic. A very young Dakota Fanning voices Satsuki, and her real-life sister Ella Fanning voices Mei. You can almost tell that they're really siblings because they work so well together as the characters they voice. Also, if it's Studio Ghibli, you can rest assured that the dub is going to be excellent. I think Disney is actually responsible for the dubs. And I know this is gonna sound super duper cheesy, but like life itself, My Neighbor Totoro is based on a series of situations and not on an overall plot. Do I think all movies should be told that way? Well, no. I don't think this style is easy to pull off and wouldn't lend itself to, say, Star Wars or Frozen. How come those are my two examples? Anyways, My Neighbor Totoro is a timeless classic and easily one of the greatest movies of all time. I do mean that. It's charming, imaginative, magical, fun, beautiful, a little sad, a little scary, and most importantly, so full of heart. And that's why my final grade for My Neighbor Totoro is a 9. Pure excellence. Anyways, those are my thoughts on My Neighbor Totoro. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and as always, stay squirrely. We don't say stay squirrely, don't mean nothing, don't mean anything.